Organising resources. Okay, the business has visions, goals, and objectives. The next stage of the business planning process requires organising the resources. So, organising how human beings are actually going to be employed in the vision. What are you making in the business? Do you need people to help you? How are they going to be organised? What sort of time period do we have in organising our resources? Do we need to get a good out by a certain number of weeks or hours? So we need to put some time around our organising of resources. How much money do we have to spend on machinery, on our goods, on our human resources? What sort of equipment do we need? Do we need machinery? And what sort of materials do we need? Do we need inputs into creating outputs? So, if we are a factory that is producing something like bread, then we need some materials. We need flour, obviously. We need salt. We need water. So, what are the materials that we are needing to actually organise our resources in an effective way to make sure that our vision, our goals and objectives are being achieved? So organising is determined then by what is to be done, right? So what do you need to actually do to produce that particular good? Who's going to do this? Are there going to be a number of employees? Are the employees going to be organised into different sections, and each section is responsible for a different part of the process? And how is it to be done? So how are we actually going to produce this output? Are we going to organise this through machinery, through a production line? Are we going to have to buy in our supplies? So all of these things need to be decided so that we can actually get that output out in a timely frame. So tasks are allocated to employees in an organisational structure, which includes how tasks will be divided up, how resources are used, and departments are coordinated. So here in the example, we can see that we've got Zen-Tech Fashions, and their vision is to be the fashion company of choice within the Australian market. So that's their vision. So what do they need to actually do to actually achieve that vision? They need to be recruiting. They need to train their staff. They need to promote their product and have sales. They need compensation sometimes if workers need some compensation. They need to have an advertising department. They need to make sure that their debt is being controlled. They need to make sure that they have their pricing right. So they might have to look at their target market, look at their competitors, and make sure that their price is competitive in the market. They might have to design a product that might have leading edge technology so that you have a competitive advantage. You might have to go out and take a loan. You might have to have an accounts department. Your business might have to have machining. And in Zen-Tech Fashions, quality control obviously is going to be really important if they want to achieve their vision to be the fashion company of choice within the Australian market. So, a good organisational structure in any business is one that establishes a chain of command, establishes the communication lines of the business, so you know who the bosses are, you know what your job is in that organisation. If you've got an issue, you know where to actually go with that issue. It coordinates the work environment into jobs for specific people, into roles. So somebody might be a manager of some sort of part of the production line, and it lets everybody knows what their responsibility is as a worker to achieve that vision. It provides a sense of common purpose. Everyone's striving to achieve the goal, the vision. So if everybody is on the right page, the same page, and working to achieve that vision, then you're going to have a sense of common purpose. Everyone striving to achieve that goal. And organising resources in the most efficient manner so everyone can do their job. So you've got to make sure that everything is laid out on the factory floor so that it's really efficient. You've got to make sure that if you are in that fashion business and that you're requiring fabric, you've got to make sure that the fabric that you need at that particular time of the day to make that particular fashion item is there in stock, waiting to go. So all of these resources need to actually come into an organisational structure so that that vision can actually be something that is fulfilled in the business. So in this business then, in the Zen fashion business, we could then put all of those jobs we saw before into specific areas. And here we have our key business functions. Now you'll see key business functions so much more when you're in year 12, because in year 12 you will study each of those key business functions. They are in blue: operations, marketing, finance, human resources. So within each of those departments within the business, we can actually sort of have little subgroups working to achieve the vision for that particular company. So in operations, we would put quality control there, machining, designing. All right, so in the operations part of the business, you're actually involved in transforming something from the raw material into the finished good. In the marketing department, you're interested in sales, advertising, pricing. Marketing's pretty easy to understand. We see marketing around us every day. The finance department is pretty obvious as well. It's the part of the business that looks after all the money. And the human resources section of the business, the recruiting, the training, the compensation for staff. So as part of your organising process, you then allocate people to actually be in charge of different departments. So you can see in step 4, we've got somebody in charge of quality control, someone in charge of machining, someone in charge of designing, and then we'd have an overarching operations manager as well. In marketing, there'd be like the top boss, the marketing manager, and then underneath the marketing manager, you'd have a sales team headed by a particular person, an advertising and pricing team, and so on and so forth through finance and human resources. Part of the organising process requires resource allocation. For example, the materials needed to get the job done must be determined and ordered. Who is doing which job? The HR requirements come into being there. What machinery needs to be used to achieve the objectives? Each of the key business functions, the HR department, the operations department, marketing and finance departments have specific requirements in terms of resources.